In a previous video called Refinishing a Dining Room Set, the chairs, we refinished 8 chairs of a client's dining room table and chair set. In this video, we're going to complete it by refinishing the table. The table is not in too bad a shape. It's got some marks on it, some dings, but we're going to take this and make it beautiful again. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to start on the leaves and see how we do there. We have 2 leaves to this table. It's really a big table when it's all said and done. And we're going to start there and refinish the leaves, and then we will move on to the table. So to begin removing the finish from the leaves, I'm going to use acetone paper towels and a plastic wrap. This works really well on a lot of finishes, not on all, but on a lot of them. And even though it's a little messy, it certainly is not as messy as stripper, and it works a lot quicker. So what I'm going to do is put paper towels down, and then I'm going to saturate them with acetone, let that sit for a while. I'm also going to cover it with a plastic wrap to try to slow down evaporation, because acetone evaporates pretty quickly. We want to work on the surface as long as it can. And so we're going to wrap it with a plastic wrap, let this sit for, 5, 6, 7 minutes. Then we'll come back, we're going to start wiping it off, and the finish as well. Now that I've got the top mostly done, I'm going to turn my attention to the edges. Again, I'm going to be using acetone, and to wipe this on and then wipe off, and again wipe the finish off. I have to do this on both ends, and then once that's done, I'm going to be ready to clean and then sand. Now that I've got the finish removed, I'm going to go back and remove any residue from the acetone with crud cutter. And as I'm going along, I'm also seeing some places where I still need to get the finish removed a little bit better. So again, I'll be taking acetone, removing the finish from those areas, and then going back over it with a crud cutter to clean it up again. So the next step is to sand the table down. I'm starting with a 120 to 150 5mm sanding pad on my Surfprep, and we'll see how that goes. And it's going pretty good. I'm not sure if this is, I think this is a veneer on top of this, but the grains seem to flow through on the edge, so I'm not sure. And I can't really tell from the edges. I really can't see a veneer layer, but I'm not sure, so I don't want to go through it. But after I get most of this off, then I'm going to switch to a 220 sanding sheet, because I noticed some blotchiness in the top as I'm sanding this. So I'm going to switch to a 220 and then continue to sand the table down smooth, and the leaf down smooth, and then we will be ready to put the gel stain on. Before applying the gel stain, I'm going to wipe down the leaf with mineral spirits. This really is an important step. It does a few things. One, it thoroughly cleans the top of the table. I've just sanded, and I can get all the sanding dust off and really clean it well. Also, it will highlight any sort of imperfections on the tabletop, in this case the leaf top, before I actually apply the gel stain. And then I can address those areas before I apply the stain, because once I apply the stain, I'm committed, right? And so, and then also, it promotes more even gel stain coverage. So that's why I put the mineral spirits on. We'll let this dry for a little bit, and then we will start to apply the gel stain. Now I'm applying the gel stain. I apply a cross grain usually, just so I can make sure that it gets into all of the crevices and pores of the green. Even though it sits on top, I do want to cover well. And so I'm just using this, a foam brush. You could use almost anything to apply it, a rag, a regular brush. I just use the foam because I can throw it away when I'm done. So we'll get all this applied, and then I will go back and with even strokes, even it out, with the grain on the table before I wipe it down. And of course, the final step is to wipe off the excess stain, and then we're going to have to let it dry for quite a while. The one thing I don't like about gel stain is its drying time, but I've got other things to do on this table, so the drying time is not really going to make me stop. I'm also using general finishes, gel stain. If I'm using gel stain, it's one of my favorites, and this is in the color of Colonial Maple, and it's really pretty. It's what the client picked out, and also too, I do this in sections so that the stain won't start to dry out on me before I get a chance to wipe it off. So while the gel stain is drying on the leaf, I'm going to go ahead and start sanding the legs for this table, because I've got to do the same thing to the legs as I do to the rest of the table. So I'm starting out with a 120 sanding sheet, and these legs appear to be solid to me. They don't appear to have any veneer, which is a good thing. So I'm going to go from 120, and I'll go up to 180, and finally stop it. Well, I stopped it at 180 on this one. And so we'll get the legs all sanded down, and then we'll do the same thing to the legs as I did to the leaf. The same process. I'm not sure if you can see it in the camera or not, but the edge of the leaf is a little lighter than the rest. And that's probably due to my lack of complete professional sanding abilities. But what I'm going to do is take a little gel stain, and I'm going to try to feather it in, and just on the edges to make it a little darker, and which I think I can do that. And then it won't be covering, I don't want to cover the entire leaf. I just want to cover just the edge, and then feather it in so that the edge is a little darker than the rest, so it matches basically the rest of the leaf. So now it's time to stain the legs. I want to do both sides at once, so I hung them from a overhead storage bin in my garage. Just hung them with a line that I had out of my sailing bag, and again, just like the other pieces, I have to wipe this down with mineral spirits, and then we'll begin to gel stain the legs. So I've got to do both sides, and this made it really convenient to be able to hang them up. That way, because if I didn't, I'd have to do one side, wait for it to dry, turn it over, do the other side. So this worked out really, really well. So I'm finally ready to apply gel stain to the tabletop. I didn't show the removal of the finish or the sanding of it because I've always shown that with doing the leaves, and the table is the exact same process, and so it was just kind of overkill to show that again. But so now we're going to put the stain on again, just like I did on the leaves, and we'll get all this on, and then I'm going to wipe it down with long, even strokes, and then we'll wipe it off, and we'll see what it looks like. I think it's going to look really, really, really good. So far, I'm really pleased with how this table is coming out, and once I get the gel stain on, it's going to have to dry, and then it'll be time to apply the top coat. I'm using, for the top coat, I'll be using General Finishes Armor All Satin, and I will be putting 3 coats on. So now I'm starting to spray the top coat. As you can see, I put both leaves and the table together so I can spray everything at once. I mistakenly said before I was using General Finishes Armor All Seal in a satin for the top coat. That was my mistake. I'm actually using Minwax Warm Satin. Again, it's all oil-based. And so it was really convenient to put the leaves in with the table. That way I don't have to spray them all separately. I'm using a Wagner 3500 sprayer and spraying oil. Um, I have two canisters. I actually um, broke or ruined one of the motors I had on my previous Wagner. And so I bought another one, but I kept the canisters. And so I decided that I could use one set for oil and one set for latex. And so, that's worked out really well. And so this is the first of 3 coats. And then I have, hung the legs up again. I've only got one at the moment. I have to still spray the other. But on my rack that I built a while back to hang things like, doors and things that I need to spray both sides. And I usually put this in my spray tent, but I went ahead and decided to spray it not in the spray tent, one, because I couldn't get it in there. And then the leg, I'm just spraying outside. It's a nice day, it's no wind. And so we'll get all this done. Like I said, this is the first of 3 coats. And then we will I'll spray the other leg. And then we will put the table back together. Here is the final result. Actually, I didn't put the table back together. My client said he wouldn't be able to get it through the door if I put it back together. So I left it apart. I took the leaves out. And but this turned out beautiful. It matches the chairs perfectly. The 2 leaves match the table perfectly, and the client is very thrilled. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you've learned anything, things to do, not to do, I hope it helps you in your project. If you haven't subscribed, I would appreciate it if you would. And I will see you all on the next video from the next season.